saw by the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about where should you be aiming to impact the white-tailed deer you're looking to harvest. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people saying, depending on your setup, this, that. I'm going to make it real easy for everybody. If you aim straight up the leg and the lower 1/3, you're going to hit the heart. You're going to hit major vascular components of that animal. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way to break it down. The 11 ring on this animal is not, I repeat, it is not the place where the most lethal damage will be done if you impact it with a broadhead and an arrow. If you go lower 1/3, I guarantee you will hit more vascular body parts and create more lethal damage than if you hit high middle of the body, in the middle of the lungs, at the back of the lungs, and you hit the smaller vascular parts of the lungs. Hitting small veins, hitting, liver at the back of the lungs. But if you move forward and down just a little bit, we're not talking nothing crazy. Because if you look at this, there's only a difference. You go left probably an inch, maybe, and you go down probably 2.5. 2.5 inches down and left an inch. You're in the lower 1/3. You're in where the crease is on the leg and the shoulder blade meet, and that's where you want to live. I mean, that's where you want your arrow to impact. I mean, this arrow right here is in the 11 ring of this animal. This is barely in the 10 ring. So you're barely hitting a scoring ring if you're shooting at where the heart is. So straight up the leg, lower 1/3, and that's where your arrows will go for your deer to die. As you can see, got the bow hunter die hat on. You know what kind of day it is then. Back inside because it got dark on me earlier when I was trying to shoot this video. Kind of ran out of light, so I decided to just bring the target and the arrows inside and kind of show you what I did. But where to aim? The question, the $1 million question as we get close to the season. Everybody's been shooting 3D, been shooting IBO, ASA, and where do you aim? Well, on an IBO target, you're supposed to be aiming at the 11. On an ASA target, you're supposed to be aiming at the 12s. What if I told you that the 11 on your deer target, on your IBO target, is not where you need to be aiming to kill that deer most efficiently? Or the same with that 12 ring on that big buck target. What if I told you that's not where your arrow needs to impact? Well, as you saw in the little short video and by the thumbnail, the lower 1/3 of that animal's chest cavity from the side, if it's facing you broadside, straight up the inside of the leg, lower 1/3, under that first piece of duct tape that you saw, is where you need to be putting your pin. Now, the reason I say that is because I've never seen an animal jump in the air to get over an arrow. I think every deer I've ever shot at has either turned or dropped. And the speed in which they drop depends on if their head's up or their head's down, because if their head's down, they can leverage their body at a quicker rate of speed than if their head's up. Which is why you'll hear some guys give a quick meh to try to alert the deer so that they raise their head and look towards the noise, so that when they shoot, the animal can't drop as fast as if it was feeding. Shooting a non-alert deer tends to be what people want to do, but there's an argument both ways. I'm not here to tell you how to hunt. I'm not here to tell you you should shoot a deer with his head down versus a deer with his head up. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to tell you where your pen should be held as you're trying to figure out the place where your arrow is going to do the most damage to that deer. And if you shoot middle of the body, like all of the guys that shoot mechanical broadheads will tell you, well, back off that shoulder just a hair and zip it through them ribs, and you'll double lung them, and they'll go 100 yards, and you pile up, and you got yourself some back straps for the freezer. That's all fine and dandy until you go to shoot that animal and it drops 4 inches, and now that broadhead is going over top of anything detrimentally vital, and it could hit the spine, it could not hit the spine, it could hit the artery running along just underneath the spine, it could miss it, and it could just totally zip through that animal and not do anything permanently damaging other than a flesh wound. The only reason I know that that's possible, I've done it. I shot a deer, I shot a big doe that was quartering at me. Thought I had the equipment to get that job done, and it lodged in the top of the shoulder blade. The arrow stopped after about 4 inches of penetration, and yeah, the deer ran off. Never to be found, never to be seen until about 5 weeks later. My best friend was hunting the same piece of property. I was hunting a different stand, and he texted me and yelled and said that he had smoked a big doe. Well, as soon as he texted me that, this doe come busting out from behind me and crashed in a little finger of woods off to my right. And we let it start to get dark, and we got down and drug the doe out in the field. And looking at it with my flashlight, I said, dude, I'm pretty sure this is the doe that I shot. And he goes, man, there ain't no way. She wasn't limping. There was nothing wrong with her. I said, oh, well, you're probably right then. And we left it at that. Well, we start gutting the deer, and we get all the guts out and everything. And he goes, hey, dude, there's a broken piece of arrow in this deer's shoulder. And I was like, dude, you're messing with me. You're just telling me that because I told you this was a deer I shot. And he's like, no, dude, I'm being serious. And he takes his flashlight and he shines it in the chest cavity and pries it apart. And there was my broken piece of arrow that was lodged in the top of this deer's shoulder. And it had my broadhead. I was shooting a 380 grain arrow. I was shooting one of the toxic broadheads that touted a meatworm technology, saying that it created a lethal wound channel upon impact. Well, that only works if you hit soft tissue. These arrows were terrible. Or I shouldn't say arrows. These broadheads were absolutely terrible. If you impacted any heavy bone of any kind, they would bend, they would break, snap off, lodge themselves, contort. They would not penetrate at all. And I'm shooting 65 pounds. I was shooting maxed out limb bolts, and all I could get because of my draw length at the time was 65 pounds. And it was stupid because I thought, everybody at the bow shop thought, I was shooting the top of the line bow at the time. I was shooting top of the line arrows. Everything was tuned. And yet I still had penetration problems. So that's why I'm sitting here before you telling you now, if you aim lower 1/3 straight up the inside of the leg, and that deer drops 3 to 4 inches, you're still going to impact things that are vital. You're still going to hit the lungs. You still might catch the aorta. You still might catch an artery. You still are going to do damage to that animal that will allow you to recover it. if you aim middle of the body, middle of the rib cage, and that deer moves in any way, shape, or form, you run the risk of not creating a lethal injury. That deer could live, it could suffer, you could shoot it in the liver, you could gut shoot it. I mean, there's so many possibilities with aiming in the middle of the body and praying that the animal does what you need it to do. To where if you aim forward slightly and low and that deer drops, it drops right into your arrow and you're able to recover the animal. So just keep that in mind when you're practicing. I use duct tape like I showed you in the thumbnail. I tape it off and I try to keep all my arrows on that bottom duct tape or below and above the belt. So be safe, good practicing. Get ready for an epic bow season that kicks off in 39 days. I personally can't wait. I'm going to start pushing out content as much as I can. You know, got to keep it rolling, got to keep it moving. I want to hear from y'all. I want you guys to send me pictures and emails. I want you guys to, you know, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me where you've been the last year, whether you've went down this path and you've changed your setup, or if you haven't changed and why. I'm all ears. I want to hear from you guys. Tell me what's going on with your equipment. Are you guys going to hunt out of a tree stand, ground blind, shoot house, saddle? You guys let me know. We'll talk about gear in a later video. But for now, God bless, good luck, and we'll see y'all in the field. Bye.